Catherine Norris-Trent in the newsroom. Yes, it's indeed time for the France 24 debate. 18 months into the Syrian conflict, many wonder if it's a new turning point, or is it? Shelling from across the border in Syria, killing 5 inside of Turkey on Wednesday after downing one of its jets back in June. This time, the reaction from Ankara was immediate. Turkish tanks, pounding positions inside Syria for 2 days while the parliament voted a measure allowing military intervention. Turkey triggering an emergency meeting of NATO late on Wednesday, their members condemning the shelling, but leaving it there for now. It's long been thought that it's up to Turkey to cue the start of an eventual outside intervention in Syria. But with Russia and China balking at the UN, they're talking as we speak, and public opinion at home against war, Turkey's prime minister careful to add to his condemnation this Thursday that everything will be done, quote, within rules of engagement and international laws. Today in the France 24 debate, we're looking at Turkey's next move. And with us to talk about it from Ankara, one of the ruling AK party's leading pointmen when it comes to foreign policy. Let's welcome back Suat Kiniklioglu. Thank you for being with us. We're pleased to be joined shortly from Beirut by The Guardian's Martin Chulov, Anton Kozlov of the American Graduate School of Paris, and from Stockholm, Kamal Labwani, former Amnesty International prisoner of conscience, longtime Syrian activist. Thank you for joining us. The France 24 debate, where you can always weigh in on the conversation, and you have this Thursday on Facebook and on Twitter. You can find us at François F24. First, though, let's get the latest. We'll hope to get the latest, shortly from our correspondent on that bombing in Achakale with Jasper Mortimer. But let me ask you then, Suat Kiniklioglu, we don't have Ankara yet either. Okay, well, we'll hopefully have that sorted out shortly. We seem to be having technical issues at this point. Anton Kozlov, we see what's transpired in the last 24 hours. The bombing, from what we understand, by the Turks was last night and this morning. It's subsided since. Is it over, in your view?
Well, look, I'm not sure it's over, but I really hope it's not going to, and I don't believe it's going to degenerate into a full-scale military operation, because, well, first of all, we don't know really who fired that mortar that killed 5 people in Turkey. It remains.
Syrian government's apologized.
It apologized, but it said it investigates this incident, so we don't really know that. Second of all, I also think that this Turkish statements about the integrity of the territory and not allowing any, it sounds a bit hypocritical, given that the Turks are regularly intruding on the Iraqi territory, pursuing Kurdish rebels. So, and they also harbor Syrian rebels there. So it's kind of, I mean, it's a very complex situation. And you know, one thing you hear on different television channels. The other thing, I think, is what they're really saying, you know, when they decide what to do next.
Martin Chulov, there certainly has been, if you look at this week's news, a spillover effect. What with as well, we know that Hezbollah militants have been killed, Lebanese Hezbollah militants have been killed. Do you get a feeling that this week marks a turning point in the conflict in Syria in that regards?
There are certainly some tipping points this week, and the Hezbollah development, as you mentioned, is extremely significant. There have been speculation for many, many months now that Hezbollah fighters were actively engaged in Syria. It had been consistently denied by Hezbollah and just as emphatically claimed by the opposition. For Hezbollah to talk this week in such an emphatic way that some of its members had been killed in a jihadist duty marks very much a point of difference. And there's a lot of speculation about why they may be choosing to acknowledge something like this at this point, because it does increase the stakes very significantly. As we know, Hezbollah are a Shia Islamic militia. The opposition in Syria is a majority Sunni. The sectarian dimension can't be denied here. So on that score, this week has been very significant.
Is it some kind of perfect storm where we've seen as well Iran, which is the public benefactor, the financier, you could say, of Hezbollah, has troubles of its own back home. And of course, Syria is in the middle of all these countries: Turkey, Lebanon, Iran. Do you get the feeling that are these things all interrelated, or are they all separate?
In many ways, they are interrelated, and a perfect storm is actually a good analogy for what is taking place in Syria. It is potentially the most significant geopolitical event since the fall of the Ottomans in the region, with the perhaps one exception, the creation of the State of Israel. But Syria is a very sectarian country. Its boundaries were pulled together on imperial whim when the Ottomans did fall. It has been held together for the last 40 years by an Alawite regime which aligns itself theologically with Shia Islam. If Iran sees Damascus as falling, and Damascus being its key to the Arab world, it's very much its gate to the Arab world, I should say. If it does see Damascus is starting to fall, what will it do? I mean, are its calculations behind Hezbollah this week being more, candid than they would usually be about something so sensitive? There are so many things at play at the moment, and none of them are tracking in a way which looks like it's going to solve what is taking place.
All right, let's go as promised to Jasper Mortimer, our correspondent, France 24 correspondent. That bombing in Achakale, can we say, first of all, that the military retaliation is over, Jasper?
Yes, I think one can, Francois. Turkey carried out 2 artillery bombardments, one last night and another early this morning. Since then, there's been nothing. The momentum from the Turkish side seems to have fallen. Syria has got the message. Even Russia has urged Damascus to eat humble pie. And I can't see another Turkish salvo unless Syria responds with more cross-border fire.
Now, Jasper, we're going to call up a map of the area so people can see. With nearly 100,000 Syrian refugees inside of Turkey, when you personally think back 18 months, did you ever imagine it would come to all this?
To be honest, no. I went to Syria 10 days after the revolution began in March, and then I went there for another 2 weeks at the end of April, beginning of May. And after the second trip, I concluded that the government would eventually wear down the protesters through its heavy crackdown and mass detentions. And while ultimately the government would win, President Assad would be forced to make certain concessions. And so a new political equilibrium would be achieved. Well, that hasn't happened. The Assad government escalated the crackdown so as to inflame the situation. And then I've been very impressed by the resilience of the opposition. These rebels have been fighting as if they believe in the principle of democracy or my death.
All right. And Jasper, we will continue, of course, to monitor this situation with you in our news bulletins. Thanks for joining us. And again, earlier, the Turkish parliament voting approval for foreign military operations after several hours of discussion.
This is not a bill to wage war. This bill is to hold in our hands, to evaluate in case of new developments, and to protect our interests. This bill, which was included when our Prime Minister presented this bill to the Parliament, is a deterrent. And it will let Turkey defend its rights properly.
Suat Kiniklioglu, apologies for the technical problems at the outset there. Thanks for being with us. You just heard the Deputy Prime Minister speaking. Is that it for now, do you think, as far as the retaliation on the part of the Turkish army?
I would certainly hope so, but all signs are indicating that this is the situation right now. Last night we were at the height of the tension. I think when Turkey responded militarily to the shelling to the other side, I think the Syrians got the first message, and I think the determination shown in the Turkish parliament today authorizing the government for cross-border operations has, I think, been an adequate message to the Syrian regime, which then obviously responded with an apology and an acknowledgement that the shelling came from their side. So I think for now, the tension is down, but I think given the overall situation in Syria, nothing is for certain, and given the volatility and the changing power equations in the northern side of Syria, which sides are controlling the checkpoints, the cross-border areas, I think it's a situation that remains to be observed and monitored carefully.
Changing power equations. Let me bring in Kamal Al-Labwani. I know that you've had a lot of contacts with people from the Free Syrian Army. What, in your view, what is the situation right now in northern Syria near the Turkish border?
I think at the north, most of the land is free now, and the Free Army try to organize himself and try to make a free zone. And he need to protect the sky. I think till now Turkey didn't ready to do that, and the reaction is very weak. I think Turkey under pressure. The regime try to challenge Turkey, and now he is sure that Turkey will not react as it possible, because the regime have assurance that the Turkey will revenge in limited way, because I think because the pressure of NATO. It is bad message now. It is bad message to the Syrian people to don't react. The people of Syria is killed under bombing and nobody react. Nobody do his job to
what do you think should be the reaction then?
Yes, they can do a lot. They can prevent the sky. They can ask Assad to stop bombing the cities by aeroplane. They can do more than they have done till now.
Suat Keniklioglu, is there more that Turkey can do?
Yes, Turkey can, and Turkey till now hesitate in giving support to the Free Army. Since months, no any good help to the Free Army smugglers through the border. And now I think everybody working on change the revolution to civil war between Shia and Sunnah. This is what happened, and every support limited in this way to change the revolution by Shia and Sunnah, not revolution against the regime. Yeah.
All right, let me. Martin Chulov was signaling at the beginning of our discussion the fears of that it would become a sectarian conflict. What with we were mentioning at the outset, the involvement of Hezbollah. Suat Keniklioglu, I just want your response to what you just heard from Kamal Al-Labwani.
Well, look, Turkey has been doing a lot. We have been hosting the SNC. As you said, close to 100,000 refugees are on our border. We are trying to help and assist as much as we can. We have used all of our diplomatic clout and networks and alliances to precipitate an alliance that would be in accordance with international law. We've pretty much exhausted very much the diplomatic channels with the United States, our friends in Europe, and also our regional friends and allies. But unfortunately, Syria has become the victim of a peculiar situation in the international arena, a fatigue that is stemming from Libya, from a mood in the United States that is increasingly inward-looking, an Obama administration that has pulled out of Iraq and is about to pull out of Afghanistan, a presidential election campaign, and there is a very unfortunate international setting that is not very favorable for an international intervention into Syria. I actually agree with Mr. Kamal that the Syrian regime is not as powerful as it seems from the outside. And if the rebels would be given weapons that would allow them to combat against helicopters and aircraft, I think the Free Syrian Army and all the other networks that are fighting now the regime would be capable of tilting the balance. Turkey can do certain things to a certain extent. You also need to understand Turkey has an historic baggage with it. We used to run the Ottoman Empire that included territories such as Syria. So a unilateral intervention by Turkey is out of the question. Turkey is looking for international legitimacy and also regional and international solidarity to provide and facilitate a transition in Syria. Unfortunately, we are frustrated with the Obama administration and many of our European friends who seem to be staying away. And I think in a Middle Eastern context, Libya is a sideshow in comparison with the significance and weight of Syria.
Let me, Anton Kozlov, I see you shaking your head. You don't agree?
Well, I think it's very peculiar that our guest is calling to arm Syrian opposition and basically invade a sovereign state, which has a representative at the United Nations, which is a member of the international community. I mean, it's a very similar statement that was made recently by Al Thani, the Emir of Qatar, who called on direct Arab intervention in Syria at the United Nations General Assembly. Qatar in itself doesn't have any army, so it's going to be somebody else's job if Arab states decide to go. But I think it is very important to keep in mind that what we're seeing here at this point are those states like Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey clearly undermining the system of international law by financing, arming, and tolerating those Syrian rebels who fight the Syrian regime.
Before we go to the break, let me just ask Martin Chulov, because I know you were inside Syria just a few weeks ago. Do you get a sense, Martin, that it is becoming more and more sectarian in the way that Anton is describing it?
Well, I've had 6 trips there this year, and with every trip that I've made, it is clear that there is more of a sectarian dimension than there was during the previous trip. On every rebel group that I sit with, talking about Iran, talking about Hezbollah, talking about Shias in ways that they weren't earlier in the year. I think this is an undeniable and a very ugly reality, and it is a significant problem going forward.
All right, when we come back, we're going to look at what is the way forward and what will NATO do next. Stay with us. You're watching the France 24 debate.